They say the world is a stage and everyone is an actor playing a part. They tell you to learn your lines, to hit your marks, to play the game. But what happens when someone refuses to read the script? What happens when a man walks onto the stage not as an actor, but as the architect of the entire production, silent and unseen? Welcome to the Sigma male community. We are not here to teach you the rules of a game you were never meant to win. We are here to remind you that you are the one who sets the board, defines the rules, and decides when the game is over. This is for the man who understands that true power isn't loud, but is instead a quiet, unshakable force that others mistake for absence, right up until the moment they realize they were never in control. The world is filled with noise, with desperate bids for attention, and with games of social chess played by amateurs. Most men are so caught up in this performance, so desperate for a round of applause, that they fail to see the man who operates on a completely different plane of existence. The Sigma male is not simply a different type of player. He is a force of nature, governed by internal laws that render external manipulation utterly useless. To engage with him is to challenge an ancient wisdom, a profound understanding of human nature that sees through the facade before the curtain even rises. For those who believe they can play him, what follows is not a warning, but an explanation of why their efforts are doomed from the start. This is an autopsy of failed strategies, a breakdown of the unbreachable fortress that is the Sigma mind. 1. The blueprint is already cracked before you speak. Think your subtle cues, your rehearsed charm, or your veiled intentions are original. Think again. The Sigma doesn't possess some mystical power. He possesses decades of silent, meticulous observation etched directly into his instincts. He has spent a lifetime not just listening to words, but watching the subtle symphony of human behavior. The micro-expressions that betray a lie, the slight shift in cadence when insecurity speaks, the overeagerness to please that masks a hidden agenda. To him, your attempts at subtlety are not nuanced data points. They are flashing neon signs revealing your entire script, from the opening line to the predictable climax. This is the Stoic practice of clear judgment in action, stripping away the layers of performance to see the raw, unvarnished truth of a situation. He doesn't react to your opening gambit. He reacts to the endgame you haven't even conceived yet. This isn't born from suspicion, but from a highly developed sense of pattern recognition honed to a razor's edge. Your clever manipulation isn't a fresh challenge. It is a tired rerun of a show he muted before the first commercial break. By the time you lean in for the close, confident in your approach, he has already calculated 17 exits, 3 ways to dismantle your premise without raising his voice, and the precise reason you chose this path. The frustration you will inevitably feel is not the sting of losing a game. It is the dawning, unsettling realization that you were never even a player on his board to begin with. 2. Fairness is a fool's gold he ignores. While you are busy arguing the fine print of the rulebook, desperately seeking validation in the concept of fairness, the Sigma is rewriting the game's core code in real time. He perceives fairness not as a universal virtue, but as a societal anesthetic, a tool designed to keep the herd predictable, manageable, and pliable. His strategy is not built on the dishonor of cheating. It is built on the ruthless and unwavering application of context. What works? What is the reality of this specific moment? That is his only compass. He understands that adhering to rules designed by others is a voluntary imprisonment, a concept the ancient Stoics knew well when they spoke of distinguishing what is in our control from what is not. He will bend, reinterpret, or outright sidestep conventions that serve only to shackle him to a mediocre outcome. Forget dramatic, attention-seeking rule-breaking. His genius lies in the seamless and silent redefinition of the playing field. You will find yourself playing checkers on a board he has subtly transformed into three-dimensional chess, only realizing the fundamental shift when your pieces no longer fit the squares. He invests zero energy in playing nice for the sake of social approval. Every calorie of his focus is spent on identifying and executing the optimal path to his objective, leaving the moral posturing and virtue signaling for those who tragically confuse it with victory. 3. Your drama is his detonator for disappearing. Emotional landmines, manufactured crises, and the faintest whiff of performative chaos are not signals for the Sigma to engage. They are the silent alarms that trigger his immediate and irrevocable exit protocol. He does not storm out in a flurry of counter-emotion. He simply dematerializes. One moment he is there, a calm and steady presence. The next, only the echo of your unresolved tension remains in the space he once occupied. This isn't a display of coldness, it is a surgical excision of a cancer. He has spent years forging an internal fortress of peace and rational thought, and he will not allow your need for attention or your thirst for control to become the Trojan horse that breaches its walls. Arguing with you is pointless. Attempting to fix your self-inflicted mess is not his vocation. He views unnecessary drama as a cognitive parasite, an entity that exists only to drain the vital energy he reserves for creation, growth, and conquest. Your pleas, your tears, or your accusations of indifference will not land on their intended target. He sees them for precisely what they are, definitive confirmation of the emotional vortex he was wise to avoid. His ultimate power move, the one that leaves manipulators utterly bewildered, is his steadfast refusal to validate your noise with a single wasted breath or a moment of his attention. For he architects dominance without a megaphone. Forget the chest thumping, the loud proclamations, and the alpha posturing that demands a room's submission. The Sigma's dominance is a silent gravity well. It is not something he projects outward. It is something that emanates from an unshakable core of self-possession and inner mastery. He does not enter a room with the intention to conquer it. He simply is, and the space, along with the people in it, instinctively recalibrates around his profound certainty. This is the quiet power of a man who has mastered his own mind, who needs no external validation because he is his own source of strength. Respect is not extracted through intimidation or fear. It is magnetically drawn to his unwavering consistency, his uncanny ability to navigate emotional storms with an unnerving calm, and the quiet dignity woven into his every action. He leads not by command, but by existing authentically, serving as a walking testament to the power of inner resolve. People do not follow him out of fear or in the hope of gaining favor. They orient themselves towards him because he represents a rare, grounded power untouched by the desperate need for external validation. In a world deafened by the constant shouting for attention, his silent strength becomes the most compelling and resonant frequency. 5. Indifference is his Teflon armor. Your hottest takes, your coldest insults, your most saccharine flattery, they all shatter against an impervious wall of absolute non-attachment. The Sigma's indifference is not a cultivated pose of aloofness. It is a strategic and impenetrable fortress. Your opinions, whether positive or venomous, hold zero sway over his emotional state because his self-worth is an internally generated constant, independent of the outside world. He does not reside on the pedestal you try to place him on, so your clumsy attempts to knock him off are, to him, merely a comical display of wasted effort. Praise does not inflate his ego, and criticism does not deflate his spirit. This emotional immunity is not arrogance. It is the ultimate form of liberation. While others exhaust themselves on the hamster wheel of chasing approval or defending their fragile egos against perceived slights, his energy remains laser-focused on his internal compass and his chosen path. Your attempts to provoke a reaction, to elicit a spark of anger or a flicker of gratitude that you can leverage, simply evaporate before they can reach him. His detachment is not a lack of feeling. It is the ultimate power conservation system, rendering him untouchable by the petty emotional warfare that consumes and controls almost everyone else. 6. The shadows are his strategic command center. Mistake his low profile for obscurity at your own peril. The Sigma male does not hide from the world in fear. He deliberately and strategically operates from the periphery. He understands that the spotlight is a gaudy trap, one that invites unwanted scrutiny, demands constant performance, and ultimately shackles a man's autonomy. His power does not just survive in the unseen, it thrives there. From the shadows, he observes the entire chessboard. He sees the fragile alliances, the desperate bluffs, the pathetic grabs for attention, all while revealing nothing of his own position or his next move. This is not a sign of weakness, it is the pinnacle of tactical advantage. He moves with a freedom that is impossible for the man who lives for the crowd, unfettered by the need to maintain a public image or appease a fickle audience. In the quiet of the periphery, he can experiment, adapt, and execute his plans without the deafening roar of public opinion to distract him. Could he seize the center stage if he wished? Absolutely. But why would he trade the clarity, control, and quiet potency of the shadows for the empty calories of fame? His influence is felt so profoundly precisely because it cannot be easily traced, seen, or countered. 7. Villain is a label he wears like armor. If your narrative requires a scapegoat, feel free to cast him as the villain. He will not flinch. The Sigma understands that society's simplistic hero versus villain dichotomy is often a cheap narrative trick used to enforce conformity and punish authenticity. His loyalty is not to public perception. It lies solely with his own internal code of ethics and his unwavering self-respect. If enforcing an ironclad boundary, speaking an uncomfortable but necessary truth, or walking away from a toxic dynamic paints him as the antagonist in your story, he will accept the role without a shred of apology or regret. He does not perform acts of virtue for a round of applause. He will never contort himself to fit your narrow definition of a nice guy, if it means sacrificing his personal integrity or his inner peace. Being misunderstood is not a fear he harbors. It is a useful and highly efficient filter. It quickly and effectively separates those who value authenticity from those who merely crave compliant actors for their personal dramas. He knows that in a world full of manipulative games, sometimes the only way to avoid becoming the victim is to be perfectly comfortable with being labeled the villain by those who cannot handle his refusal to play. 8. Your next move is his past calculation. Stop imagining for 1 second that you are unpredictable. To the Sigma, human behavior is a vast and decipherable algorithm. Years of silent, focused observation, not of grand gestures, but of the infinitesimal tells, the subconscious patterns and the predictable reactions of people under pressure, have forged within him an almost preternatural foresight. He does not read minds in a mystical sense. He reads you, and he often understands your motivations and your next move better than you understand them yourself. Your burst of anger, your calculated flattery, your strategic retreat, he has seen these patterns enacted countless times before. By the time you consciously decide on a tactic, he has already cataloged it, assessed its root cause, be it your insecurity, your greed, or your fear, and has already formulated multiple effective counter-strategies. Engaging him feels like sparring with a ghost. Your best-laid plans and sharpest blows land on empty air because he anticipated your stance long before you even shifted your weight. His power lies not in controlling you, but in the profound and often unsettling understanding of human nature that renders your attempts at surprise fundamentally and predictably obsolete. 9. The why is his only compass, and he's aiming it at you. Surface-level explanations, blindly followed traditions, and unquestioned authority are all kryptonite to the Sigma's operating system. He is the eternal skeptic, a walking interrogation of the status quo, forever probing beneath the surface of things. Your compliment is not simply accepted at face value, it is quietly dissected for its underlying motive. Your impressive title or your position of power grants you no automatic deference in his eyes. It simply makes him more curious about the actual competence and intent that lies behind the label. The phrase, "because it's always been done this way," is not an answer to him, but a direct invitation to dismantle the flawed logic with forensic precision. And yes, you are constantly under the same powerful microscope. Your sudden act of kindness, your convenient and telling silence, the glaring gap between your words and your actions. Nothing escapes his relentless pursuit of authenticity and truth. He does not necessarily assume malice in others, but he absolutely assumes nothing. This is not about being difficult or contrarian for the sake of it. It is a vital survival mechanism in a world that is saturated with manipulation, half-truths, and hidden agendas. For the Sigma, a genuine understanding of the why is the only foundation worth building anything on. Everything else is just noise. 10. The scoreboard is invisible, and he's the only one reading it. Forget the public victories, the flashy status symbols, and the performative wins that are designed solely for external applause. The Sigma's entire focus is channeled into an internal scoreboard, one that tracks only meaningful, substantive outcomes. Ego-driven flexes, petty competitions, and the desperate scramble for public recognition are, in his mind, distractions of the highest order, energy leaks that he seals off instantly and without a second thought. Every action, every decision, and every ounce of his effort is ruthlessly evaluated against a single critical metric. Does this tangibly advance my core objective? He builds in silence, he solves complex problems while remaining unseen, and he accumulates real, tangible power while others exhaust themselves chasing the fleeting high of external validation. His results are not announced with a trumpet blast. They simply manifest in the real world, leaving others scrambling to understand how he moved so far ahead while they were busy watching the show. You cannot manipulate a man who is utterly indifferent to your approval or your attempts to provoke a rivalry. His purpose is internal, his victories are often private, and his progress is unstoppable precisely because it is fueled by substance, not by spectacle. 11. Self-sufficiency is his unassailable fortress. This is the bedrock, the fundamental principle upon which the entire Sigma identity is built. While others frantically build networks of dependency, desperately crave external validation, or constantly seek a rescue from outside themselves, the Sigma's greatest and most formidable power is his profound, unshakable self-containment. When emotional storms rage, he weathers them internally, using his own reason as an anchor. When complex problems arise, he trusts his own intellect and his own resourcefulness to find the solution. The need for companionship is a deliberate choice for him, not a desperate lifeline. This is not a life of bitter isolationism. It is a state of supreme operational independence. You cannot leverage need against him because the kind of need you understand simply does not exist in his world. He does not require your approval, your resources, your emotional labor, or your alliance to function, to survive, or to thrive. Any attempt to create a dependency, to make him need you in some way, will crash harmlessly against the sheer granite walls of his internal completeness. This profound self-sufficiency makes him immune to the traps of codependency, the poison of emotional blackmail, and the desperate maneuvers of those who must rely on external crutches to stand. He is the architect, the builder, and the sole vigilant inhabitant of his own inner citadel. Breaching those walls is not just difficult, it is architecturally impossible. The path of the Sigma is not for the faint of heart. It is a journey of relentless self-mastery, of cultivating an inner world so strong that the chaos of the outer world cannot penetrate it. The 11 reasons we have explored are not just traits. They are the pillars of a fortress built on the bedrock of stoic resilience and unwavering self-knowledge. This is the reality that those who seek to manipulate or control others fail to comprehend. They are playing checkers on a two-dimensional board, while the Sigma is moving through life with a three-dimensional understanding of power, purpose, and peace. If what you've heard today resonates with you, if it speaks to that quiet, confident core within you that refuses to play by the world's foolish rules, then you have found your community. We are the Sigma male community, and our purpose is to provide the maps and the tools for men who are committed to this journey of authentic power. Do not let this be passive entertainment. Let this be a catalyst. Reflect on these points. See them not as a list but as a mirror. Where can you fortify your own internal citadel? How can you further detach from the need for external validation? Your growth is an active process, a daily practice. If this message has provided you with value, if it has armed you with greater clarity, then show your support. Like this video to help it reach other men on this path. Share it with a brother who needs to hear this. And if you haven't already, subscribe and press the notification bell, because our work here is far from over. Leave a comment below with which of these points resonated most powerfully with you. Your engagement fuels this community and helps us all grow stronger together. Stay vigilant, stay focused, and continue to build your unshakable self.